I'd like to call this meeting of the Lammersville Unified Board of Education to order at 7 o'clock. Just a gentle reminder, this meeting is being both live streamed and recorded. If you could please silence or turn off your cell phones at this time, it would be appreciated. I'd like to call Bethany Elementary Principal Ritchie to come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board President Pombo, trustees, Dr. Nicholas. Our student representative who led us in the Pledge of Allegiance is Donovan Rudish, and Donovan is a finalist for Freshman Director of the 2023-2024 Castle State Board, and voting will take place in April. So we're excited for Donovan and this opportunity to be represented at the state level through Castle.
Thank you, Donovan, and congratulations.
All right, so I wanted to share a little bit about Bethany and what we've been up to and what our Bobcats are. So some of the things that we've been up to, our Bobcats are scientists. Our teachers are diving into the science standards and exploring different things with students. They are, you can see some of the pictures of our third grade students exploring fossils and digging into bags that have different types of fossils, different types of rocks to identify. We also had our family science night, where we invited families to come and see the science fair or STEAM fair projects that were completed by our 4th and 6th graders. And we had some hands-on science experiments that families could interact with throughout the night. We also have 2 students who are representing Lammersville Unified and Bethany. We have Namandeep Nijar, who's in 6th grade, who won an award for environmental literacy. And then we have Mahip Singh, who's a 7th grader. He took first place in computer science, and Mahip will be competing at the 2023 California Science and Engineering Fair in April. Our Bobcats are also readers. So this was Mrs. Wingo's vision, was to have a book vending machine. So when students earn coins or the tokens for the vending machine through reading, whether it's AR or whether it's something in the classroom, they come to the library and they're able to get a book from the vending machine. And it's very fun. The lights light up and it makes music. So getting kids excited about reading. We also had a family literacy night a few weeks ago, and the theme of the family literacy night was fables and fairy tales from around the world. So we invited families from Bethany to share stories from their cultures, from their countries, and we had different rooms throughout campus that represented different countries. Students had a passport that every room they went to that was a different country, they got a stamp from it, they did an activity, and they were able to hear a story from that country. We also had a station set up for families to share kind of an oral history. So families could go into the library and record themselves talking about books from their youth and from their country so that students could learn from them as well. And then, as you can see in the picture, we had reading under the stars, but we were indoors because it was very cold. So we had flashlights and we had string lights, and parents and students came and sat on the floor with their blankets and they read books together, and it was really fun to see them interacting that way. Our Bobcats are athletes. We finished up volleyball, we finished up basketball with great seasons, and we will be starting soccer if the rain subsides eventually and the fields dry out. But our teams are doing great and showing sportsmanship, and they're learning a lot as well. Our Bobcats are makers. So we've given classes opportunities to come into the maker space Sometimes classes get busy and they're focusing on all the reading and all of the math that goes on every day. But we are showing them how they can come into the makerspace and connect those things to making as well. So it's a lot of fun to see the students interacting with computer science, with engineering in our makerspace. Our Bobcats are musicians. We've had a few of our concerts that have been well attended. We also have 14 of our students will be recognized in April who are part of the county honor concert. So we had 6 in orchestra, we had 7 in choir, and we had 1 student as part of the honor concert for band. Our Bobcats are safe. So we've had the Mountain House Fire Department by to talk about fire safety, and we've had our school resource officer, Deputy Garcia, come by and talk about school safety. We've also included an excerpt from Officer Garcia about school safety, about how we walk to school, encouraging parents to follow the rules around the school. So that's been helpful to include in our newsletter each month as well. And our Bobcats are leaders. Donovan is our ASB president, and our ASB is very pivotal in a lot of the things we do around campus. This year, we've adopted the habits of mind. So each month, there's a different habit. This coming month, the habit is perseverance. So our ASB students go to each classroom and they teach about perseverance. What does it look like? There's an activity. This last week, the ASB students did activities with kindergarten and first grade where the puzzles were upside down so you couldn't see the picture. And they had to work together and persevere in putting the puzzle together without seeing the picture. Our older kids were doing stacking cups with using rubber bands, and they had to work together and communicate. So it's great to see them interacting as well to teach the students. So it's not just the teachers, it's not just us teaching them about perseverance. And one thing I forgot to mention is our 6th grade students are at science camp right now. Everyone is safe. The trees are standing. There's just a little bit of mud. The sun was shining today, and they got to go outside, and they got to do the climbing wall, and they were able to go on adventures. So they're having a lot of fun. They're up in the Santa Cruz Mountains right now, so they're having fun as well. All right. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Actually, I do for Donovan. So he is up for state officer for Castle, right? And if you get that, you're going to go to a state thing, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So right now, I'm running for freshman director. There's a whole committee that has all these different roles, but Castle is pretty much the big conference that all of these heads and groups come together and create, and that's kind of what I'm running for. I'm running for that opportunity to both help create that event when I go next year, and I think there's a lot of side things you can also do. I think there's a lot of opportunities to both lead and host other events, and that's pretty much what the job is for.
So good luck.
Yeah,
Hope
good
you
luck.
get it.
Good
And
luck
if you
to
do, come back and tell us how it went.
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
Lots of great stuff going on at Bethany. Thank you, Principal Richie and Donovan. Great job. If, Donovan, if you would like to stay and watch our meeting, you're more than welcome to do that. If you'd like to leave now, you may do that as well. Thank you.
Thanks.
Item 2, roll call, please.
Lisa Boulay,
Here.
Colin Clements,
Here.
Benita Daniel,
Absent.
Stephanie Olson,
Here.
David Pombo,
Here.
Satya Selam.
Here.
Item 3, approval and/or corrections to the agenda.
There are none.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion by trustee Olson and seconded by trustee Clements. Student preferential vote.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, committee reports. District Advisory Committee, trustee Boulay.
Nothing to report.
District English Language Advisory Committee, trustee Clements.
The next DLAC meeting is April 20th here at 6:30 PM here in the district office boardroom.
Thank you. And the Education Committee is me, and our next Education Committee is a joint meeting with the DLAC Committee. And as trustee Clement said, it's April 20th at 6:30 at the PDC, I believe.
Oh, it is?
I believe so.
Oh,
I apologize. It is PDC. I apologize.
No problem. Item D, Facilities Committee, trustee Olson.
the next Facilities Committee meeting will be Thursday, May 11th at 6:30 PM here in the district office boardroom.
Thank you. Policy Committee, trustee Boulay.
So the 500-plus pages of the first read of the current batch of policies is in the board packet this evening. So I hope you all enjoyed reading them. And I want to give a shout out to Sarah Barrios and her team for working on all the updates. And whoever decided years ago to use the CSBA program for our policies and ARs, that was brilliant because with a partnership with them, they really keep tabs on all the updates to all the laws, which then allows us to stay updated. So that was a very smart move. So, and I appreciate that. And that's all I have for policy.
Thank you. Safety Committee is mine, and the next Safety Committee meeting is March 22nd at 3:45 here in the boardroom. Wellness Committee, trustee Olson.
The next Wellness Committee meeting will be on April 19th, that's a Wednesday, at 3:45 PM in the Professional Development Center, AKA PDC.
Thank you. Item 5, Governing Board Reports. Student trustee Selam.
Good evening. At Mountain House, spring sports are in full swing. Our swim team is so large this year that we had to recruit 2 new coaches, and they competed at an invitational this past Saturday in Livermore. And we placed first in varsity girls 1-meter diving competition, and they qualified for the San Joaquin sectional diving meet. And we also placed second in varsity boys 100-yard butterfly with a record time of 53.64 seconds. And we placed third for the JV boys 200-yard relay. Congratulations to our Mustang athletes. And our boys volleyball are defending their first in league title as they're currently undefeated. And their next home game is tomorrow. JV is at 5 p.m. and varsity is at 6 p.m. Boys tennis is also undefeated this year, and they're working towards their second sectional championship in a row. On February 25th, the MHHS Science Bowl team won 3rd place at the regionals competition, and it was very close, with them being only 1 question away from 2nd place. The DECA State Conference was March 3rd to the 6th, and we had record-breaking results this year. We have 36 individuals who placed top 10 in their event, and we're taking 21 students to the International Conference in Orlando in April. And of the 21 students, 18 are competitors who placed top 10 in their event, and 3 officers are representing us at the Leadership Conference who have been selected through a rigorous application process that only selects 11 officers from the state of California.
Okay, wait. So we got 3 out of 11?
Yes, 3 people from our school applied, and all of the officers from the state of California are welcome to apply, and they only select 11, so we were 3 of the 11.
That is awesome.
And in addition to these competitive achievements, the Mountain House chapter was named the 2nd largest chapter in the state of California with 438 members, and our advisor, Carrie McQuett, was awarded the Advisor of the Year award. And thank you to the district, administration, alumni, and chaperones for your support to our chapter. The high school science Olympiad teams placed 1st and 4th at the San Joaquin Regional Tournament on March 4th. The blue team who placed 1st will represent Mountain House at the state tournament on April 22nd. The Speech and Debate National Qualifier Tournament was this past weekend, and we have 11 students who placed and will be advancing to the national tournament in the summer. This Monday, we had our winter sports banquet, and the culinary students made refreshments for everyone to enjoy. And today, for the first time in 5 years, we had our Blacklight Rally. Our leadership class worked very hard to decorate the gym with glow-in-the-dark paint, and we passed out glow-in-the-dark bracelets and light-up glasses for the students to enjoy. And we had so many wonderful performances by the cheer team, color guard, and the Synergy dance team, but my favorite was a dance by a couple of the staff members, and they worked very hard to practice that. And one update that I received from the K-8 schools is that Wickland is having an inclusion week next week, and it's dedicated to spreading awareness about students with disabilities, and they will have spirit days, lunchtime activities, and art competitions about inclusion. And their Science Olympiad team won first at their last regional competition, and they will be advancing to the state competition soon. That concludes my report.
Lots of great stuff going on at Mountain House High School and around the district. Thank you for bringing us up to speed on all those wonderful events. And that brings me to Trustee Boulay.
Thank you. On March 4th, I attended the San Joaquin County Science Olympiad competition for the middle school and high school divisions. My daughter and I were running events all day, so I got around a little to see some of the teams, but I didn't have an opportunity to touch base with everybody. But I really want to congratulate all the students who participated, because they work hard and they learn a lot. And Science Olympiad, they're learning concepts that are well above their grade level, and so they're just they're all successful. But I particularly want to congratulate the high school team and Wickland for their first place finishes. So they'll go on to the state competition, but we have a few other schools that will be going on to the state competition as well. And I also want to thank the parents and the coaches for putting so much time into this event, because the success of the students, really a big part of it is because of the dedication of parents and coaches. On March 9th, I attended the third grade wax museum at Cuesta, and yes, this is one of my favorite events. And really, it's such a great thrill to see the kids dress up as famous people portraying notable scientists and artists and musicians and politicians and athletes and inventors and so much more. It really is fun. It's a great morning, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Clements.
Last week I attended the interviews for Mountain House High School principal, and I'm very excited to point out that one of the candidates is actually on the list of new hires to be ratified by the board this evening. And if it would be appropriate, I'd like to take a moment and thank Ben Faubert for beginning the high school and leading the high school and all of the challenges and logistical nightmares that starting a high school would be. Congratulations on your new role. Best of luck in that role. It's been an honor. You've done a fantastic job, well deserved. But thanks for everything you've done.
Thank you. Trustee Olson.
On March 3rd, I had a site visit to Cordis Elementary School, and it was really great getting to see all of the wonderful things that students were doing. I got to catch a second grade class in the makerspace and making use of that space. You could tell every student was engaged, and I thought it was interesting that even the students that weren't able to use the space because they hadn't completed, their work, were working with smiles on their faces. So it was just nice to see, and I got to see a kindergarten class, and the students were so responsible, little kindergartners moving around, and so it was great to see such high quality instruction and students really just engaged in their education, and I was very, very happy with what I saw. On Tuesday, March 7th, I attended the Community Services District meeting and gave a report on our school district, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. I spent the last almost 2 weeks since the last board meeting out of state helping my mother celebrate her 80th birthday. So unfortunately, I was unable to attend any of the great things that my fellow board members talked about and did, and that concludes my report.
Mr. President, if I may,
Yes, sir.
This is a momentous occasion because in 8.5 years on the board, this is the first time that I've ever done more things than you.
I'm not sure about that, but thank you. Item 6, receiving of public comments. The entire board appreciates hearing from members of the community and the public at large. The board shall give members of the public an opportunity to address the board either before or during the board's consideration of each agenda item. At a time so designated on the agenda, members of the public may also bring before the board matters that are not listed on the agenda of a regular meeting. The board may refer such a matter to the superintendent or designee or take it under advisement, but shall not take action at that time. The board may place the matter on the agenda of a subsequent meeting for discussion or action. Individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board shall limit total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. I have no blue cards, but if anyone in the audience would like to make a public comment at this time, please come forward. Seeing none, we shall move on to item 7, consent items for consideration. Governing board meeting minutes, contracts under $50,000, ratification of new hires for the 22-23 school year, ratification of new hires for the 23-24 school year, ratification of resignations, ratification of budget revisions and warrant list for February 2023, updated 2022-2023 fundraisers, approval of high school graduation or reduction of graduation requirement petitions, and ratification of school-sponsored trips. Would any member of the board like to pull any of these items for discussion?
Mr. President, we have an update on the field trips. We had an additional student added, which increased the cost, so we're just correcting the record for a slight increase in costs there.
All right.
So any vote would have to have as amended.
All right. Thank you.
Move to approve consent items as amended.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion by the board? On a motion by Trustee Clements and seconded by Trustee Olson, student trustee preferential vote.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8, district administrative reports.
Point of order.
Trustee Olson, would you like to do the honors?
Yes, I would, thank you. There's two groups of names I have to read, Trustee Pombo. So I'm going to start with the 2022-2023 new hires, which are Catherine Clark, Custodian 1, Christina Hambleton, Coordinator of Curriculum, Instruction, and Programs, and Maria Soto, Food Service Worker. And so we'll welcome them now because they're here now. Thank you. And then we have some 2023-2024 hires. We'd like to welcome Adam Auerbach, High School Principal, Maria Kanga, Coordinator of Curriculum, Instruction, and Programs, and Melissa Crivello, Coordinator of Curriculum, Instruction, and Programs.
Welcome. And now we'll move on to item 8, district administrative report, superintendent's report. Dr. Nicholas?
Yes, just a brief item. Trustee Olson just referenced the hiring of Mr. Arbach. I just wanted to just let the board know and just a brief overview. Mr. Arbach is an experienced high school principal at a large comprehensive high school in an urban community in Lodi, California. He was an assistant principal at Tokay High School before that. He's an affable fellow. He has some big shoes to fill. Literally, I think size 16, right? At 18, but also figuratively. When we do interviews and we're looking for leaders, it's about experience, but it's also about fit. And the great part about doing the second and last interview is I get to drill down And once the nervousness of being in a final interview kind of subsided and the true essence of the person came out, I think we've got a good fit here for us. He's got a great opportunity to take over what I think is the best high school in California. All these folks out here, including size 18 shoes out there, and the board's support, have built a great program, and I think he has the ability to take it to the next level with all of our support. So I think the community is going to be very happy with our selection. That is my report.
Thank you. Item B, district enrollment report.
We have 7,563 students.
Thank you. Item C, district maintenance and operations report. Mr. LeGrand.
Good evening, thanks for having me. Yesterday morning, I had a job walk with Bernie and our freezer vendor for the 2 freezers we're going to put in at Cuesta and Bethany. The freezer they're due to arrive mid-May, and we have some work to do at both sites to prep the area for the new freezers. So we went over that when the installation contractor was there too. Monday afternoon, I met with Gloria and Alvina. We'll talk about our summer projects. This is our list of summer projects. It's now spilling over into the second page, as you can see. Talked to them about funding sources and whatnot. So we had a productive meeting in the afternoon for an hour and a half going over that stuff. I also want to thank the business office for their help with the CalShape RFP. As I mentioned last meeting, we didn't get any responses. So they did some homework on their part, and we were given the green light. We did our due diligence. We put an RFP out. We're able to move forward with any vendor we choose to move forward with. So to that end, I've had 2 Zoom meetings the last meeting with our current vendor plus our previous HVAC vendor to get that project moving forward, spend that money. We have about 18 months left to spend the money. Our EPIC interns, we got a 3rd intern on Thursdays. So on Thursday, we had 3 people. Friday, we had 2 people. Last week, they helped me. We're putting a storage area under the staircase in the C building. So they got a sheetrock lesson from me, how to cut the angles and cut the sheetrock, so on and so forth. We also had a brief electrical thing. We had some lights to tear down, the wires, the ballast, all that kind of stuff, how that stuff works. So they may have enjoyed it, they may have not. Hopefully they learned something. Tomorrow and Friday, the weather is supposed to be good. Hopefully it'll be like it was this afternoon. We have a lot of field work to do. We have to stripe the fields for the K-8 games, for the soccer games. And the high school fields need some work, and the track as well. There's some weeds and stuff to take care of there. So that's what we'll be doing the next 2 days with them. We're still chasing roof leaks from the recent storm. We had several come back after the weekend storm. It's supposed to be nice for the next few days, so the roofing covering's been out, and I think there's some rain in the forecast early next week, so hopefully we'll be able to take care of those. Update on projects. Cuesta, there's some site cleanup that needs to happen. The construction fence needs to come down, and the Connex box needs to be taken away. They tried to pick up the Connex box on Friday. The fields are just too wet to get the truck out there to pick it up. I'm going to monitor the field. Hope they come out this Friday and get it out of the way after school's out. Construction meeting. I was at the meeting last week for Costa. Our next meeting is a week from today, next Wednesday, excuse me. A week, upcoming items, not this Friday, but next Friday, I have a job walk at the high school. We are replacing all the lights in the main gym. We're going from compact fluorescent to LED. The lights have been an issue for a while. It's pretty dark in there, and so we're getting to that project. It's going to be an energy savings as well, and they estimate about 84 months to pay out the lights, so about 7 years will pay out the cost of the lights. And then staffing update, we have interviews tomorrow for the facilities admin position, secretary position at the high school, and then Friday we're interviewing for the lead position at Cuesta. And then our evening custodian Wickland's going through the process to get hired. And then we still have to figure out what to do with the warehouse and the custodian position here. Happy to answer any questions. That's all I have.
You mentioned the field striping. Did Jim E. arrive to do that, or is it?
That's unofficial name at this point. But I did the paperwork and the POs in the process, yeah. It should be here in about a week, maybe 2 weeks at the most.
So there's still some striping to do by hand.
We have to do some manually striping for the next week or so, and everything got washed out because of the rain last week. So we have to, if you don't keep up on it, you lose it, and you got to restring everything. So we're out there trying to touch it up. So, but our new employee should be here in a week or so.
And,
So
and I hereby decree his name is officially Jim E.
Aye.
you have that authority to do that? I guess you do, the board brother, right? I guess you do.
Any further questions or comments?
Anything else?
What's the target completion date on the freezers?
On what?
The freezers that we're putting in?
They should arrive mid-May. Shouldn't take more than a week or two to get them up. We should have them done before school's out. I know Bernie wants them done before school's out. So
Yeah.
that's where we're at.
Cool, thank you.
They ordered them this week, and it said 8 weeks, which puts it around mid-May they come here. So that's where we're at.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on to number 9, action items. A, consider approval of 2022-2023 interdistrict transfer request. Motion
Move to approve 2022-2023 interdistrict transfer requests.
Second.
on a motion by trustee Clements and seconded by trustee Boulay. Student trustee preferential vote.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, consider approval of 2023-2024 interdistrict transfer requests.
Move to approve 2023-2024 inter-district transfer requests.
Second.
On a motion by trustee Olson and seconded by trustee Boulay. Student trustee preferential vote.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, consider approval of a 3-year contract with Interstructure using Mastery Connect and Elevate platforms for assessment and data analysis, including Canvas, grades K through 12, for the 2023 through 2026 school years at a total cost of $392,498.96. Staff report?
Yes. We live in a time where technology and data and analytics are crucial to all operations and all businesses. One of the fun, enjoyable parts of building the high school, having a 21st century mindset, building 21st century classrooms is, you have to have the things, you have to have the technical term is doohickeys and all the like, but you also have, they produce information, and that information has to be malleable. We have 2 programs we've used. They're long-standing programs, or at least one is long-standing, but they have not kept up with the times. And we promised the board that we were going to do a deep dive audit of all of the technology data producing programs and make sure they were up to what we needed. Two of these programs were identified as needing to be replaced. One, because it just can't do what we need it to do, and the other one is a great idea that in practice isn't accurate enough. The third one is Canvas. It's kind of the brain trust of the grading system, communication system, curriculum system for 6th through 12th grade. So there's 3 programs in this item. We strongly recommend approval. We look forward to working with programs that are the best we could find as opposed to something we've already had. There's one math correction to our favor, which is rare that I get to say that from the dais, but the net increase in year 1 is less than what was reported year 2 and year 3. So the net increase from the insufficient programs to the best we could find is in year 1, $70,801.17. In year 2, $12,314.81. And in year 3, $13,192.42. So in this era of technology-driven education, things come and things go, things get better, things have to be replaced. This recommendation is to keep Canvas and move on from the two inadequate programs to Elevate and Mastery Connect.
Clarifying question. The item is $392,498.96. But if I understood you correctly, the actual additional expenditure is only somewhere in the range of $95,000 over the 3 years.
That is correct.
That's the incremental increase
Correct.
after taking away the stuff we're not going to use and
Correct. And we're not able to use, think about this as we have a car that goes 55 miles an hour on the freeway, and now we're buying a car that goes the speed of what people drive on the freeway. So we're going to use it more too.
is that safe?
It's less annoying.
Move to approve a 3-year contract with Instructure using Mastery Connect and Elevate platforms for assessment and data analysis, including Canvas, grades K through 12 for the 2023 through 2026 school years. Total cost $392,498.96.
Second.
A motion by trustee Clements and seconded by trustee Olson. Student preferential vote.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D, consider approval of second interim financial report for the 2022-2023 school year. Staff report?
Yeah, the crucial essence of the second interim report is a correction to the record. So there's the budget, the first interim, the second interim, and the budget closeout. So as time goes on, things change. We get more solid student attendance records. We're able to adjust the budget, and this is an update report. The crucial piece to this is we can pay our bills this year and the out 2 years. Congratulations to Assistant Superintendent Grijalva, Director Kaiser, and their team. Sorry, I'm joking. Let me try that again. Congratulations to Assistant Superintendent Grijalva and Director Kaiser and their teams for working through our budget and making it work as always.
Move to approve the second interim financial report for 2022-2023 school year.
Second.
On a motion by trustee Boulay and seconded by trustee Olson, student preferential vote.
Aye.
And I would just like to say thank you to our finance team for all the hard work and always making the numbers work.
And as a fellow finance person, I echo that because I know how much work it is.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item E, consider approval of LUSD TK8 and high school summer school 2023. Staff report?
Yes, I say this every year, but it's important, and in particular for those folks that are watching the live stream and in the audience. Not all districts invest in summer school programs. This is an investment long-term that this board and previous boards have made in the names of summer learning loss and credit recovery. We're proud to put on these two programs. We strongly recommend approval. These two programs, coupled with the ELOT plan that's coming forward later, should provide resources to families in our summer. Again, remember K-8 is remediation, learning loss mitigation, and summer school at the high school is primarily credit recovery with the exception of a couple of classes.
Move to approve the LUSD TK through 8 and high school summer school 2023.
Second.
A motion by trustee Boulay and seconded by trustee Clements. Student trustee preferential vote.
Aye.
Are there any questions or comments by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item F, consider approval of contract with Roblin for perimeter fencing at Lammersville Elementary School. Total cost funded through Measure L, $348,755. Staff report?
Yes, the fence at Lammersville has been a bit of an adventure because it's tied to a greater adventure called the Modernization Project. This is part of the modernization project and work that we're doing out at Lammersville. Let me remind the board that in order to maximize state funds, we have to hit a particular target of investment at Lammersville. Staff has identified projects and work that qualify. First, we're doing this project second. There'll probably be a second or third project at Lammersville to meet the threshold for the maximum yield of state funding. Once we hit that mark, it's $1.5 million, we will submit a application similar to the 5004 application, and in return get $2.3 million to invest in further modernization. This is paid for by our general obligation bond, which is important because the community supported our needs. We've spent most of it at the high school and doing some other work around our K-8s. But this is a first bigger project we've done in a while. So that's a long explanation to get to. We approved this, but it's tied to the modernization project, which will garner more modernization state funds.
Move to approve contract with Roblin for perimeter fencing at Lammersville Elementary School. Total cost funded through Measure L, $348,755.
Second.
On a motion by trustee Olson and seconded by trustee Clements, student preferential vote.
Aye.
Are there any questions or comments by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item G, consider approval to renew the 2023-2025 Child Care Services Agreement at Wickland Elementary School with Catalyst Family Incorporated. Staff report?
Yes, items G, H, and I are all similar renewals to existing programs. So Catalyst, Montessori, and Brilliant Minds, the recommendation is going to be the same for all three. They're good programs, and we recommend for all three that they be approved.
Move to approve to renew the 2023-2025 Child Care Services Agreement at Wickland Elementary School with Catalyst Family Incorporated.
Second.
On a motion by trustee Boulay and seconded by trustee Olson, student trustee preferential vote.
Aye.
Are there any questions or comments by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item H, consider approval to renew the 2023-2025 preschool before and after school services agreement at Altamont and Cuesta Elementary Schools with Montessori School of Tracy, Inc. Motion?
Move to, go ahead.
I'll let you have it, trustee.
Move to approve to renew the 2023 to 2025 preschool before and after school services agreement at Altamont and Cuesta Elementary Schools with Montessori School of Tracy, Inc.
Second.
On a motion by trustee Clements and seconded by trustee Olson, student trustee preferential vote.
Aye.
Any questions or comments by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item I, consider approval to renew the 2023-2025 before and after school services agreement at Hanson Elementary School with Brilliant Minds Academy. Motion?
Move to approve to renew the 2023 through 2025 before after school services agreement at Hanson Elementary School with Brilliant Minds Academy.
Second.
On a motion by trustee Olson and seconded by trustee Boulay, student trustee preferential vote.
Aye.
Questions or comments by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item J, consider approval of additional services request for Nichols, Melberg, and Rosetto for interim housing portables and classroom addition at Mountain House High School. Additional cost, $5,000. Staff report?
Yes, with the changing the number of portables from 6 to 8, increase the amount of work, and this covers the increased amount of work on the NMR's part.
Move to approve the additional services request for Nichols, Melberg, and Rosetto for interim housing portables and classroom addition at Mountain House High School. Additional cost, $5,000.
Second.
On a motion by trustee Boulay and seconded by trustee Clements, student trustee preferential vote.
Aye.
Questions or comments by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item K, consider approval of the 2022-2023 and 2023-2024 Expanded Learning Opportunities, ELOP plan. Staff report?
Yes, we're going to have Assistant Superintendent Sharp here kind of complete the circle on the communication trail to the ELOP funds. And so this board vote on this action item will put into place our ELOP plan, and we will execute what has been a state program with little direction. And she's done a good job harnessing lack of clarity into something that we can be proud of.
Good evening, President Pombo, trustees, Dr. Nicholas. So as Dr. Nicholas was saying, yes, this is another board presentation on ELOP. However, today I'm going to be going into a little bit more depth, where before it was more of like a skeleton of our program. So the first thing, and as I've talked about before, is there are 11 quality standards that we need to adhere to in the program. So I'm going to go through in detail how we will address each of those program standards. For the safe and supportive environment, ELOP will be following the same safety protocols and procedures of LUSD. We'll have safety drills, the safety backpacks will be available, we'll have a check-in, check-out system, student emergency contacts, and staff will be trained in CPR. This program will be supervised and implemented by district staff, and they will be available during program hours. And the program will be offered at each elementary school site as well as the high school, and I wish I could have like an asterisk next to each thing. Pending staffing. So, everything will go around who we can get to staff the programs. Active and engaged learning. Students will have extended opportunities to engage in STEAM and VAPA projects and activities. Some of these activities or opportunities would be music classes, sports, hands-on STEAM projects, and art. For skill building, students will develop 21st century skills, collaborating with peers and working independently. ELOP will build on students' understanding of skills necessary for 21st century learning: critical thinking, collaboration, communication, creativity, and citizenship. Youth voice and leadership, we will have assemblies that would be focused on an emphasis of youth voice and leadership opportunities. Students will also have opportunities to take part in speech and debate and other similar elective classes. Healthy choices and behaviors. We will have social emotional lessons provided during ELOP, opportunities for physical activity with a focus on structured play that's centered on team building and maintaining positive relationships with peers and adults. Breakfast and an afternoon snack will be provided during the school year. Just a note here, we will offer lunch during summer school, and that will be provided by the LUSD nutrition service staff. Diversity, access, and equity. ELOP will focus on underrepresented groups, getting opportunities to grow in their knowledge and understanding of 21st century education as it pertains to enrichment and program opportunities presented in ELOP. It will provide equal access to students with disabilities. Quality staff, our ELOP teachers will be highly trained, as well as all instructional aides in the program. District staff and an ELOP coordinator will provide oversight to the program. The clear vision, mission, and purpose. ELOP is following the same vision, mission, and purpose as LUSD, which I have listed up here, just the small snippet I pulled from ours. The collaborative partnership of families, community members, and staff. Our focus is on graduating all students to enter the workforce in a profession of their choice and continue lifelong learning, with a continued focus on 21st century education, anchored in development of critical thinking, collaboration, communication, creativity, and citizenship. Collaborative partnerships. It's our hope we'll be able to work with Mountain House High School students to be offered opportunities to tutor and support ELOP in a variety of capacities. Continued quality improvement. Surveys will be sent out to students and families to elicit feedback on the program. And program management. District level management will oversee the program and budgetary regulations. The curriculum coordinator will act as a liaison between district and school sites, as well as a support to site administrators and family when necessary. And attendance and activities will be managed through district staff and the ELOP coordinator. Now the survey results. So we sent out the survey last week. Within the first 25 minutes, we had 88 responses. Yes, I was checking. I was curious. So these are our overall results. I will say that total, we had over 450 responses. You can see here parent interest for the 22-23 school year, which we're looking at May. So being the month of May is kind of our pilot month. We had 423 students, or parents interested with 423 students. Summer, we have 360 student interest, and for 23-24, 416. So here I just broke it down so everyone could get an idea of the interest and how it spanned across the grade levels. So starting at the left, going across the top, we have 22-23 is the first column, second column being the summer, the third column, school year 23-24, And those last two columns on the right are the before school and after school interest. And then if you're going down the left-hand side, those are the grade levels. So you can see it's a pretty even, within 10 difference. And I honestly thought we would have more interest in the K2. We had more interest than I had thought in the older grade levels in the 4th, 5th, and 6th. So that's good to see. There'll be some great opportunities. Same with summer. Everything's pretty consistent all the way across each of the programs. You can see the one area where we don't have as much need, it's looking like our families don't need as much before school as they do the after school. Total by school, there are some areas where you can see schools have higher interest than others. Same across the top, the years are the same, May, summer, 23-24 school year, and then the before and after school across the top. You can see Hanson coming in first. They have some pretty big numbers there with interest. Good old Lammersville has some interest too, so that's good to see. And just across the board, the one is the Costa. So they could choose if they wanted to. Of course, they're not there yet, so we probably have other Costa kids that are in at the other schools right now, so that's why that's not reading very high. So our staffing plan. As we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the program, we're really starting to identify what staff that we need. And we know we need the instructional aides. We're looking first to hire internally by increasing hours for our current existing employees. We're hoping that we can get the positions filled through that. But if we don't, we will go outside and hire from outside the district. We know we'll need some extra custodial support, particularly in the summer. Food services, we need to have people in the summer being able to serve the breakfast, lunches, and snacks. If there's a situation where we need some type of nursing, depending on students who are enrolled, we'll take a look at if we need an LVN or need some kind of support there. And then the coordinator, we've already hired her. She is starting, she's a current teacher, so she's coming out a couple days a week to help as we're trying to get the program going, but she will come out full-time about mid-May to be able to help fully with the program. So our summer plan, we plan, pending staffing again, to have the program at every elementary site. We will group the students in age ranges. So we're looking at the TKK, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, 6th, and planning on using the library, makerspace, and classrooms at each of the school sites. Here's an example of a summer schedule. You can see 7 to 8 is really about breakfast and free choice. And you can see from the survey results, we don't have a lot of families who are going to be there during that time. When the regular school day starts at 8 o'clock is when we really start more of our structure of our day. So there'll be some type of welcome, sharing the schedule for the day with the students, and a read aloud. And from that point, there's going to be a rotation of 4 or 5 different things. There's going to be the makerspace, math games, reading games, PE, art, and some kind of science project. And the students will rotate through those. They'll stay within their pod, but that way we'll have one class that's focused on art activities. So we don't have 4 classes with paint spread all over, or 4 classes with science stuff spread all over. So while we're trying to contain the cleaning and what we're doing in each room, we're going to have them moving from room to room. So one room will be one type of station, even though the grade levels will be different. And then for our plan for 22-23 and 23-24, very similar. However, as I said before, 7 to 8 in the morning is really going to be not so structured. That's the time when students are going to be coming and going as parents need. We'll have things available for the kids to do. However, it won't be so adult-led in the mornings. And then after school, for the littles, they're getting out at 2:10, so they'll have a snack and get themselves situated from about 2:10 to 2:30, and then they'll have opportunities to get support in academics if they need it from 2:30 to 3. At that point, I believe many families will be picking up their kids because the older students will be getting out of school. However, for those that are staying, they will again have an opportunity to go through a rotation. Again, art, makerspace, and PE. And then you can see over to the right is a Friday example. So it's the same idea, but the periods are going to be a little bit longer because we will have them for more of the day. And then 4 through 6 schedule is the same idea. 3 to 3:30 being the snack and academics for the 4th through 6th graders. Again, rotating through different activities, art and makerspace on this one, and then Friday having the longer day and more opportunities. For you just to know, Monday through Thursday, so these students, while here is an example of art and makerspace, they actually would rotate through the other courses throughout the week. So Tuesday they would be doing art and music, or there's going to be a rotation, so they won't see everything every day, but these students wouldn't only get art and makerspace. They would be able to rotate through those other opportunities. Any questions?
You had the the numbers from the questionnaire. Did we, or the survey, do you know how many of those students were unduplicated students? And
Not yet. We have not dug down deep enough to that at this point. We have one more survey that'll go out from the site level tomorrow. Once we give the families one more opportunity to submit their interest, then Christy, the coordinator, will begin to look at that information.
If somebody, and I'm sorry, I can't remember if this question was already answered at a previous meeting. My memory is failing me. But like, if somebody signs up for the ELOP program, what is the attendance requirement? Like, if a student only went one day a week, would that kind of pose a problem for how the program is supposed to be, or?
Yeah, good question. That actually did come up on the survey too. So parents were asking about that as well. That's something that we'll need to take a look at as far as need and space. The way that this program's designed is not going to necessarily be students need to be there every day. However, in planning and staffing for programs, we do need to have some kind of consistent attendance so that we know, if we have 2 instructional aides staffed for 20 students and 3 come regularly, well, then we have to have a conversation about what's the best staffing and what's the best program. So it's an answer, non-answer, sorry, but it's really, if they're going to sign up, the intent is that they would come all 5 days, and that there most likely will be other students interested. So if it's not something that would work for that family 5 days a week, there may be another family that would come in that it would work for them.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
thank you. Item 10, information and discussion items. Item A,
Point of order.
Point of order. That's actually an action item.
it is.
Move to
Motion?
approve the 2022, 2023, and 2023, 2024 Expanded Learning Opportunities Program Plan.
Second.
On a motion by trustee Boulay and seconded by trustee Olson, student trustee preferential vote.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we can move on to information and discussion items. Item A, high school graduation and K-8 promotion dates. Staff report?
Yes, we have the promotion and high school date. Obviously, we are all going to attend the high school graduation, but we have 2 days of K-8 promotions. And this is the opportunity for the board to kind of divvy up which ones they want to go to. We've already done that with staff. Can we, yeah, Noelle's going to put it up. You don't have, I don't have it in front of me. Okay, so Noelle's going to start to do the round robin auctioneering. Oh, I'm going to do, all right. First bidding is on Wednesday, May 24th. From 5:15, there's Hanson, Lammersville, and Wickland. And on Thursday, May 25th, all at 5:30, Altamont, Bethany, Cordes, and Cuesta. And Mountain House High School's on the Friday the 26th, and it starts at 6 p.m. So we have Hanson, Lammersville, Wickland on Wednesday, Altamont, Bethany, Cordes, and Cuesta on Thursday.
I'd like to attend Hanson on Wednesday. I have not had the opportunity to attend one of their promotions yet. So, and then I can attend any of the ones on Thursday. So,
Can I attend Lammersville on Wednesday? I haven't attended one of theirs yet.
I would like to attend Cordes on Thursday. I haven't attended Cordes yet, but my Wednesday, whichever one is left, I'll take because I've been to all those.
I can do Wickland on Wednesday and How about Altamont on Thursday?
There is no pressure for all board members to be at all things. We try to have one board member at each event. We're getting bigger. It's getting more difficult. We have one staff member. The one warning is the tradition for the longest running promotion ceremony. It has the least amount of kids, and Jen Duran is the record holder for the longest Lammersville promotion ceremony. So we're very proud of her for that.
So I guess since I've attended, I think I've been to at least one promotion for all the other schools. I will attend. Trustee Boulay, do you have a preference of Bethany or Cuesta this year?
I'll do, I don't mind Cuesta. I did Bethany last year, so I'll
Okay.
do Cuesta this year.
And I did Cuesta last year, so Bethany
Okay,
this year is great.
all right.
Yeah, right.
You're doing, so I have Cuesta Lisa
Yes.
and Bethany
Stephanie.
Okay. All right. That is a person in
And-
every slot.
And you will reach out to Trustee Daniel and see if what her preferences are.
Correct.
Thank you.
Who is doing Lammersville?
Moi.
Lisa.
I'm going to hang out with Lisa at Lammersville.
They like long ceremonies.
We like long ceremonies. You had me at long ceremony.
Item B, Public School Attendance Board Policy Administrative Regulation 5113. Staff report?
Yes, at the last meeting, the board asked for a report presentation on our attendance policy. So we at staff has put together, Irene is the leader of this effort. She's going to present this. One of the things we like to do, this is a very technical presentation with details, and it's set up for a board discussion and questions at the end. We like to clip some of these presentations and either post it on the website or if someone has a question. So if it works for you, hold your questions till the end, write them down. But it's because of the technical nature, there's a lot of definitions and such. It would help with the clipping process.
Will do.
All right, good evening, President Pombo, trustees, Dr. Nicholas. Thank you for having me here this evening. So each person between the ages of 6 and 18 years of age is required to a compulsory full-time education. And a full-time education is the time designated as the length of the school day by the governing board. So 96% is what we strive to maintain here in the Lammersville Unified School District. Even with that high mark of 96% or higher, our concern is that with that 4%, we have 300 students that are not receiving instruction or supports in the classroom. And so we want to make sure that our students are in our classroom because it provides consistent access to high quality first-time instruction, intervention, resources, enrichment, and make sure that we're establishing positive consistency in their routines and procedures, and it helps students to feel welcome and incorporated into their school sites. And at the end of the day, we know that nothing replaces the positive interactions that they have with our dedicated staff, both the classified and certificated staff. So average daily attendance, simply stated, it is the number of days that a student attends versus the number of days or divided by the number of days that they are enrolled. While it is used to describe student attendance, it's also how the funding formula for how we receive funding as a district. So we know that many different things as a district and as school sites is measured by the state and monitored by the state. And one of those things is chronic absenteeism. So a student absent on 10% or more of the days, calculated by that number of days absent by the number of days enrolled, includes all absences, including excused and unexcused absences. And the concern is that we want to make sure that we're monitoring that because we know that student absences for any reason impede learning. And so I have included some snips from the 21-22 dashboard. And so we can see that one of the big concerns is our students that are at risk, our special populations, our unduplicated students. chronic absenteeism impacts those students disproportionately. And so we can see for our African American students, our homeless students, our socially economically disadvantaged students, and our students with disabilities, they all have a very high chronic absenteeism rate when compared to our general population of students. A student is truant any pupil who is absent without a valid excuse for 3 full days, or is tardy or absent for more than any 30-minute period during a school day without a valid excuse on 3 occasions in 1 school year, or any combination thereof, is considered to be truant. And per Education Code 48260, it requires that we notify parents and make sure that we're providing some interventions and supports to maintain positive school attendance. Students are considered to be habitually truant if he or she has been reported as a truant on 3 or more occasions in the school year. So we have to make sure that we are providing parent communication. So that can be phone calls, email communications, home visits, traditional mailings, anything along those lines, to make sure that we are notifying parents or guardians that there are concerns regarding their students' attendance. A student may be considered chronically truant if they are absent for 10% or more of the school days in 1 school year. So again, 10% of the school year is 18 school days if we're talking about 180 days in the school year. And so while I would like to say that this is not an area of concern for our district, based on the number of cases that we have for SARB referrals to the district SARB panel, it is an area of concern and an area that we need to continue to monitor and provide supports to our students and families, because there is still an ongoing need to closely monitor student attendance rates. Excused versus unexcused. So the type of absences no longer impacts funding. Schools do not receive funding for any day that a student is absent. So whether that is an excused absence or not. The type of absence does determine when a pupil can be defined as truant and when a pupil is entitled to complete all of the assignments and or tests missed during the absence. If a pupil accumulates unexcused absences of more than 30 minutes on 3 separate days, again, that student must be reported as truant. So what does this mean for our students? So looking at some of the research regarding a student attendance, chronically absent students are not only missing out on school days and opportunities to learn, but they are at the greatest risk of falling behind. Looking at our students, and as seen on our own dashboard data, chronic absenteeism disproportionately affects students of color, our English learners, and our students with disabilities. Chronically absent students are not only missing out on school days and opportunities to learn, but they are at greater risk of falling behind. So chronic absenteeism has been linked to reduced student achievement, social disengagement, and feelings of alienation. So we have a very comprehensive system to monitor student attendance here in our school district, and that is from when our students are little in the TK, when they're just learning how to be students, and for first-time parents with first-time TK or kindergarten students, they're learning how to be a parent of a student that is attending school. And so each day, a classroom teacher records either daily or period attendance. The attendance clerk receives that report through our ARIES, which is our student management system. From there, the attendance clerk updates the ARIES attendance record based off of if a parent or guardian email has been sent, if there's been a voicemail, a traditional written note, a doctor's note provided, or if there's been an independent study contract that's been returned and completed. There's daily communication to parents or guardians via ARIES auto dialer. So depending on a parent's preferred notification, it might be a text message, it might be an email, maybe a phone call. There are monthly attendance reports generated and reviewed by the school sites. So that goes through a multi-tiered system, starting with our attendance clerks, then to our office supervisors, and then to site administrators to review. Based off of those attendance reports, SART meeting, which is site-based attendance review team meetings, those meetings are scheduled. And then depending on if a student has been referred or identified as truant, three times or more, then the student is referred to SARB, which is the district-based student review board for attendance. Again, monthly attendance reports are sent to the district office for review. They're reviewed by our Director of Fiscal Services, and they're reviewed by myself as the Executive Director of Student Services, line by line, student by student, school by school. Ongoing audits by the Student Services team are conducted, as well as monthly meetings with attendance clerks to ensure that we're having consistency and accuracy in our practices and how those practices are being applied and how our policies are being enforced from school site to school site. So BPAR 5113 outlines that absences need to be cleared within 48 hours, that 3 consecutive days require a doctor's note for return. When a student has 5 absences for illnesses, further absences need to be verified by a physician. Some examples of excused absence reasons are personal illness, quarantines, medical appointments, funerals, bonding with active duty personnel. And again, we are also looking at not just truancy for those unexcused absences, but also chronic absenteeism. So students are considered chronically absent if they are absent at least 10% of the instructional days that they've been enrolled to attend school. So sometimes there might be the assumption that because a student is absent due to illness, that there is no concern there. And there's not a concern, because we have to make sure that we're monitoring student attendance. Because if we have a student that is chronically ill, we need to have an SST meeting specifically to look at attendance to determine, is this the best placement for the student? If they're receiving medical treatments of some kind where they're gone for weeks at a time, we may need to consider, is home hospital instruction a better support for the student? Is independent study through our LEO program or our online pathway at our high school a better fit for the student? Because we want to make sure that we're providing as many interventions and supports to our students. And a student that is not attending school, an in-person structured program is maybe not the best fit for that student. So we want to make sure that we're having some of those difficult conversations. And once again, all of this is monitored and published on the California School Dashboard. So we have had an evolution of our attendance practices and policies, and I have seen much of that happen during my time here since I began in 2004. So when we were a much smaller district, 1-2 schools, we had a different approach to independent study. If a family requested independent study for travel, let's say, they were granted the independent study. Now a lot has changed since that time. How schools are funded has changed. Chronic absenteeism rates and how that is monitored has changed. The identification and the notification, all of those things continue to evolve. So as a district, we've continued to evolve as well. So approximately after the 16-17 school year, there was an update to our board policies because there was a concern related to the number of independent study related absences. And so we went from families being able to take as many independent studies as they would like to a very strict, you could have 3 in your time from TK through 12. Then I remember the conversations that were had that was perhaps a bit too restrictive, that it wasn't realistic for families. And so now we have the policy that we adopted since that time, the 6 opportunities, TK through 12, and there's also the appeals process if a family has a need beyond that, and there's a process for that as well. Looking forward, we have the increase from the number of days from 10 to 14, which will start during the 23-24 school year. Illness absences, so parents and guardians are able to excuse up to 5 days for illness. Again, I want to reiterate that COVID-related absences are not counted as part of those 5 days. Those are something separate. To assist families as needed for that medical verification, we've offered our nurses as another resource to verify illness absences based on observable or measurable symptoms. Again, they're not providing treatment, but if they're able to measure that a student has a temperature, they're able to observe flushed cheeks, glassy eyes, that would be something that they would be able to verify a student illness. And then we have attendance monitoring. So that's something that's done starting with the school sites through the SST process and the SART meetings related to that. And then we also have developed and implemented a very comprehensive SARB process here as well. So looking at the LCFF ranking, this is where we know it's important for students to be in school because we want them to be with their peers, we want them to have the social interactions, we want them to have the education enrichment and interventions. However, we also understand the reality of how our district is funded. And so looking at this list, take out New Jerusalem Elementary, because it's a bit of an outlier because it's not a traditional district, it's primarily charter, so their funding is different. And so when you look at that, you can see clearly that our district receives the least amount of funding. And so you can see we have 21.48% versus New Hope Elementary at the bottom there, 91.88%. So that's a huge difference. So breaking it down a little bit more, so Stockton, for every $3 in base grant, they get $1 in supplemental and concentration grant. Tracy, for every $7, they get $1. For Lammersville Unified School District, for every $22, we get $1. So what that looks like for our students and our programs, it's an important part of the puzzle because we're able to provide so much because we're very, very strategic. And how do we capitalize on the funding that we have here to provide the most enriching opportunities for our students that are attending our campuses? So again, going to the total number of days, again, we are always striving for 96%, and that's what the rate that we use to determine our overall budget. As I mentioned during a previous presentation, if we have a drop from 96% to 95% attendance rate, that is going to result in a potential budget decrease of over $500,000. And so for us, we have the added opportunity to continue stretching ourselves as a growing district, but we're not funded on student enrollment numbers increasing. We're funded on how many students are showing up to attend school every day that they have the opportunity to attend school. And so one of the things that we're monitoring and that we have to look at, if we recall back to the prior slide where I had some of our dashboard data there, we have 5 schools that have been newly identified for additional targeted support and improvement due specifically to chronic absenteeism. And so as a result of that, the school sites had to develop plans, and we as a district need to support them to make sure that we're improving student outcomes specifically related to their attendance in school. We want to make sure that they have those opportunities because, again, those are our at-risk students. Many of those students are the 20% that we talk about that are at risk of not meeting the same benchmarks as their peers. So a little comparison, because I know it's always important to how do we compare to those in neighboring districts. So Tracy, they require physician verification after the 10th illness absence. They have 72 hours to clear attendance. However, their chronic absenteeism rate is 32.1%. That is extremely high. Pleasanton, if a student shows a pattern of chronic absenteeism due to illness, district staff may require a physician verification of any further student absence. Satisfactory explanation upon return, and chronic absenteeism rate of 12.6. Concerns with vague language like that is it makes it difficult for families to be able to follow and do what we're asking them to do as a school site because it's not specific enough. Fremont, excessive excused absences. Admin shall call parent or guardian to schedule a conference when the student has accumulated 10 days of scattered absences, a satisfactory explanation upon return, and a chronic absenteeism rate of 13.1%. Going over to Dublin, physician verification required after the 14th illness absence, satisfactory explanation upon return, and a chronic absenteeism rate of 12.2. Manteca, 14 days of illness, satisfactory explanation, a chronic absenteeism rate of 35.8%. And Livermore, a doctor's note required for excessive absences due to medical appointments or an illness, 72 hours to clear, and a chronic absenteeism rate of 24.7. Comparatively speaking, our chronic absenteeism rate for a district as a whole is 12.1%. So while our attendance rate, our chronic absenteeism rate is lower compared to all of those other districts, we as a district are continuing to strive beyond that. Because at the end of the day, we don't think it's okay as educators to go back to that prior slide when we know if we have 4% of students out of our classrooms, that's 300 students that are not receiving services by our staff. And so that is something that we take very, very seriously as a school, as our school sites and as a school district, because we want our students to have as many opportunities as we can. And we know that one of the key ways for us doing that is by having our students in our classrooms every single day. So considerations. Earlier, we did make some significant updates to our independent study policy 6158 in preparation for the 23-24 school year. And that is to meet the needs of families. However, it was also an attempt to recapture ADA. For Saturday school, we brought back the return of our 7-8 Saturday school, which we began in the spring of 2020, and that is to assist students in restoring positive school attendance, and also to maintain privileges that they may have lost previously due to poor attendance, and also as an attempt to recapture ADA. Positive attendance has always been a focus for as long as I can recall because it ensures consistent access to high quality first-time instruction. That's where we embed our interventions and supports, and it removes attendance as an area for consideration during the student studies team process. So what happens is if we have a student that is struggling academically, one of the first things we look at is, yes, are we looking at discipline and are they time out of the classroom due to discipline concerns? Are we looking at attendance because the student is absent a lot on Mondays or Fridays, or they had an independent study where they didn't return? Because it's difficult for a student to make satisfactory academic progress if they're not attending school. And it's difficult for us to remove that as one of the hurdles or barriers, or even to have a student be considered for an IEP if we haven't rolled out attendance, if they haven't had the opportunity to access content. And so it's really important for students for a wide range of reasons to have positive attendance. There is a concern that loosening our policies will provide opportunities for some individuals to take advantage of our systems. And so that is always something. We have students that we know are ill, and we work with those families. But there are also other families that take advantage to the different opportunities that we do to support families. And an example of that was a transition when we went from 3 independent study opportunities to 6 independent study opportunities. So not that long ago, I was presenting about how we were granting families independent study and they were not coming back on the day identified, and their student was missing 5, 10, 15 or more school days. And again, recall that if a student is absent 18% of the days, they are chronically truant. So that is something that we would want to make sure that we're looking at and continuing to monitor. So we are always striving for that 96%. And I apologize, it sounds like a little bit of a broken record, but it's what we want to make sure, because we are so diligent with our attendance staff of making sure that we're following up with families for students that are missing school to verify their reason. We've given additional opportunities for Saturday school, so that's in particular restarting our 7-8 Saturday school, but then also adding additional days to the remainder of the school year Saturdays, the remainder of the months. So going back to prior presentations related to independent study, at that time there was concern because our attendance rate was 95.2%. Currently, as of mid-February reports, it was at 95.4%. And so that's an approximate $125,000 in recouped ADA that we've had just in that month's time. Now, the other thing is, in some ways, it would be easier for us to have lax standard in regards to student attendance. Monitoring student attendance is very comprehensive and it takes a lot of staff's time. However, we have a very firm commitment to honoring our students and emphasizing the importance of them being in the classroom as much as possible. And so that's why we're so committed to that. It's because we want our students to be there so we can provide the supports and the opportunities for them. The other part of it is there's also the reality of how our district is funded. We don't have a high number of unduplicated pupils. So because of that, we don't get those supplemental or concentration grants that other districts do. And so in order to maintain the high level of programs that we have here, from going from our TK through our 12th grade students to the sports to the academic competition teams. That's all based on how we are able to budget as a district. So the most important thing is always going to be students, but how do we provide the opportunity for our students? And one of the ways is through the positive school attendance and making sure that we're emphasizing the importance of that positive school attendance. So I did do a little bit of a breakdown on weekly attendance. So Monday attendance rates as of now is 94%. Tuesday through Thursday is 96%, and Fridays is 95%. So it could be that students are more ill on Mondays and Fridays, so that's a possibility. But there also is a concern that perhaps there's some extended weekends that are taking place as well. And again, that goes back to we're providing systems and structures, not just for the families that are always putting students' education first, but also for those that maybe take some liberties when we give a little bit of flexibility. So back to the 96%, healthy students and a healthy budget. Students will always be first and foremost in our minds. We emphasize and monitor equal access for students because we know that students in the classroom equals access to high quality first-time instruction. We have consistent communication regarding the importance of positive attendance, and that's again because we want to make sure that we provide intervention, support, and enrichment opportunities. We have a continued commitment to high quality programs, and that is made possible in a large part through the positive attendance, and that's what our board has done all along is we think about our academic competition teams, and we're always so happy when they make it to the next level, right? But then one of the reasons that we're able to be so generous as a district and yourselves as a board is because of our positive school attendance. So recommendation for a potential update to BPAR 5113. So recommendation to change the time to clear an absence from 48 to 72 hours. For the 3 consecutive days of absence, there is no recommendation for a change. And for the 5 days of absence excused by a parent and then further absences verified by a physician, there's no change for that one either. Any questions?
Could you go back to the slide that compares the different school districts? You passed it.
Oh, I'm sorry. The other one.
Yes.
This one, yes.
If I'm understanding this correctly, in Manteca Unified, over 1/3 of the students are chronically absent.
Correct.
Wow.
To clarify, after five absences, excused absences due to illness, a doctor's note is required.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to say the specific reason. So sometimes what we see is a parent has described symptoms, and that's what's reflected in the doctor's note. So per the parent's phone call indicating that so-and-so has a fever, it is recommended that the student be absent from here to here.
Okay. So my question is that if, like, let's say the child is ill and they go in the hospital for 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
That's 5 excused absences. Obviously, it's a doctor's note.
Correct.
And then a month later, the child, or 2 months later, the child is ill. Does the parent, do they get 5 on their own without a doctor's note?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So having a doctor's note doesn't count against the 5.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Because those are coded differently in Aries. That gets a medical notation next to it indicating that there was a doctor's note provided, or the nurse has cleared it if they went to the school nurse.
Okay. My next question is on as a non-educator, I look at like Manteca, and I'm almost speechless, right? But because we do come under fire, because we care about absenteeism because it's better for the child to be in the classroom and learning. That's better. But on the flip side, it seems to me like if your children are gone if 35.8% of your children, over 1/3 of your students are chronically absent, it feels to me like the teachers, they teach this 70% of students, this subject matter, and then later they have to teach the other 30-something% the same subject matter because they weren't there. And so it's this Gordian knot, or, where chronic absenteeism actually makes the teachers' jobs harder, right? Which means they deserve more, and yet you have less to pay them. So am I wrong? Am I misunderstanding how that works with chronic absenteeism?
That would be part of it. The other thing that I would add is that while our teachers are very diligent and they would be working with that 30%, let's say, that didn't get the first time instruction, there is never going to be anything that's going to replicate the small group instruction that might have happened, the partner, think, pair, share conversation that would have happened, the interactive lesson. That's not going to be replicated in the same way. The teachers will make sure that they're providing access to the content, the standards, the lessons, but there are some parts that can't be replicated in that same way.
Is there any thought or recommendation given towards instances where doctors say, I'm not going to give you a note unless you physically bring that child to me and I verify that they are ill?
We have had some situations like that happen, and the parent sent that communication to us, and that's something that we're working with the parent to provide the excusals, in those novel situations. So that's when then the school nurse can provide that verification. So that would be one of the primary ways. But, so let's say that there's through many of the different medical providers, there's the chat features, the online features, the emails. And so there's those opportunities. So for example, we had a student recently in SARB, and the student had X number of parent absences. So you saw that Monday through Wednesday of that week, the student was parent excused illness absence. And then there had been a couple of days prior. Then there was 2 unexcused absences. And then the second week, the student was ill, had gone to the doctor, but it took time. So then they had the 5 days of medical excusal provided through the doctor's note. We went back and excused those 2 days where the student hadn't had the opportunity because the appointment wasn't able to be scheduled until that Monday. So then we were able to take that doctor's note, apply common sense to it, and say that yes, not only these 5 days that were outlined, but also these 2 days that was pending the appointment, because that's not on the student, that's not on the parent. And so that's one of the things where that communication between the school site and the parent or the guardian is important, because we're able to apply the policy in a way that's fair and consistent and in a way that makes sense for all of our families.
Well, I have a question about that, though, because I have a doctor. I mean, this has affected me with my youngest. They will not sign the notes. And as a parent, I'm just going to play devil's advocate and, ask how, if my child gets sick 2 days, I can call them out, they get excused. Children can, but children get sick colds often 6 to 8 times a year. So if my daughter gets sick and she's sick 2 days, I call her out. And then she gets sick for 3 days, I call her out. She can't get sick again unless I take her to the doctor. But as a parent, sometimes I just know when my child is sick, and I don't want to pay my copay and take them to the doctor. So my question is, well, actually, that's why I asked for this to be on the agenda, because I'm an educator now, and I understand the whole thing about students being absent. Absolutely, they don't learn anywhere better than school. I just have a problem with limiting the number to 5 days in light of the fact that Ed Code is very generous, and Pleasanton and Livermore, their chronic absenteeism rates are very similar to ours. 12.6, 12.2, 12.1, and they offer a lot more days before a doctor's note. And so I feel like I get the whole the crunch, the stress of the money. It's like I feel torn. And so because at the same time I feel like there's got to be some sort of reasonableness when it comes to families.
So that was actually one of the reasons that I was going to bring this up also in the policy about the 5-day rule. And it is because I've had a couple parents come to me and say that it is fairly stringent. And to what Trustee Olson said, I can see where a child can get sick one day, 1 month, one day next month. To get sick one day a month, I don't think is totally unreasonable. Generally, if you're only sick for a day, it's not sick enough to require a doctor's visit. But after 5 days, we are asking our families to take their students to the doctor. And if they're not sick enough to go to the doctor, they're paying a copay for an unnecessary doctor's visit. They're using time, energy, and resources. And so I think that our 5 days is, we're definitely on the very stringent side of that, whereas some of the other districts do offer more flexibility. So that is one of the points that I was hoping to discuss, that 5
I think there's a point that got in your example was very good, but so if I can't get a doctor's note, then a family can work with the nurse to deal with that. So there's another option. So
I don't like that option, to be honest.
And
okay.
From a healthcare perspective, if the family can call the nurse and the nurse is willing, the school nurse is willing to do that over the phone, that's one thing.
It's
But
not
to
over the
take-
phone. It would have to
yeah,
be something they could
to
observe or
take
measure.
a sick child
School.
to the school, potentially exposing other children.
No, usually the student stays by the curb and then the nurse comes out to the car.
It's still an inconvenience that as a parent, when my child is sick and I know they're sick and I know they need rest, and if a doctor would say, don't bring them in, why can't they just rest and give them 5 more days of excused absences? That's my question.
So it seems like the discussion for the board is to give staff direction is to loosen up the 5-day rule, knowing that it makes it less inconvenient for families. Sick kids aren't being asked to sit at a curb, and knowing that there will be opportunities for people to take advantage and the attendance rate will lower. It is one of the difficult challenges of being in charge is you have to make a difficult decision. We strengthened the independent study rule because people took advantage. And in doing so, we've reclaimed money. So that was a good decision by the board. We have tightened up and loosened other policies. So that the issue is not that. It's just a difficult decision. The district staff, me, are recommending the change. The board can make any decision it wants to, and we'll follow that direction with pride. We're simply rolling out the struggle we have and how we're able to do things. You guys need to have the discussion now and give direction.
I just have one. Oh, sorry. You go ahead and I'll ask.
So I think that for the 5 days, that's probably the most ideal for this school district. However, it's not nearly as ideal for families. The families, the students, the parents are very important stakeholders. And so because what might be ideal for families is way different than what is ideal for the school district, I think that coming to some sort of compromise would probably be a wise decision. At least that's what I think. And I think if we increase it, we don't necessarily need to increase it to 10 or 14. We don't have to use any of these numbers that any other school district uses. We can come up with our own number. Whatever number we use, whether it's 10, 14, or even less, it's still well under that chronic absenteeism number. Now, granted, I do think that there are some people that are going to take advantage, so I'm not saying that this is going to be a foolproof change. But we also have a clause in our policy that says, I think Livermore has it or Pleasanton has it, if there is a chronic or a pattern of chronic absenteeism due to illness, then district staff may require physician verification. So we have that clause to allow a little more rigor for potentially eliminating abuse, and then that's where we can look at the patterns of, do we see kids absent a lot on Monday and Friday, and are they taking extended weekends?
And I have a question too, because it's something that came up at the California School Board Association's discussion on this very thing, ADA, and how it impacts. Because I don't think any of us are unwise to the struggles this district has getting funding. But some superintendents there shared that they were having the same issues and needed, wanted to recoup ADA funding. And they did a reach out, an education reach out, where they explained it very clearly, like just, very basic outline, very, to the families, like, hey, help us out. It was like a very positive approach. This is how much money we lose every day your child is absent. And your presentation covered something that is a misnomer in the district. I think a lot of people believe if I call my child in and the absence is excused, then we get the money for it. I think a lot of people think that. I wouldn't even be, I would be interested to see if you polled staff, how many people might believe that, because,
Didn't that actually used to be true?
But it's not true anymore, right?
It's not true anymore, but it used to be true, which
So,
is what
yeah, so-
fosters that perception.
Right, so I think, has our district ever tried that kind of positive outreach? Because I think this community, I know we have people that abuse things, but I think that's the minority. I don't know what you think. I think if we reached out and told parents, hey, this is what happens when your child misses school, please, let's get to school unless we're sick, then I believe the community will step up. Because I know before I was on the board, when I realized that and learned that, as a parent, I was a little, not that I just let my kids miss school whenever they wanted to, but if they said they were sick, I was a little more like, 99.5, you're going to school kind of thing, So I don't know, just a thought.
I have a question about the nurse verification of illness. Is it just our practice that the student would have to come to the school, or is it a board policy? Is it ed code? What dictates that the student be present? Because we're asking our parents to ask their doctors to do that very same thing over the phone.
So some of it comes down to licensure. Our nurses are not doctors, and so we're trying to be very conservative in making sure that we're protecting our nursing staff, because we have to have something that they can measure, not something that can be described, that they can diagnose over the phone, because that's not an area that we can go into because they're not doctors. So that would be the main thing that we're concerned about, is if we're putting our staff in a vulnerable spot. And I'll be honest, it is an increased impact and strain on the front office to make sure that we're providing that additional service to families. But it was something we're just trying to be as creative as possible with the resources that we have available and our staff. So that was a practice that we updated for this year, to try to support families as best that we could. And I would like to speak to what Trustee Olson shared about communication. As someone that sits on the SARB panels, I agree that parent education is essential in everything that we do. But our focus, as a district, as the student services team, is always about the importance of students being in the attendance. Our focus during SARB or anything else in our communication is not to the fiscal, because that little TK, kinder, first grader, so on and so forth, that doesn't have any meaning for them. And then it's interesting because the minute we start emphasizing some of those fiscal financial realities, true, and if we start putting that emphasis there, we've already seen it in SARB of like, that's the vinegar that's shared back as a SARB board. The only reason you want my student at school is because my student represents this quantity. And it might be something that they found on the internet that may or may not be true, but that's for some of the families that we're trying to support and provide those interventions, that is the easy excuse of like, the only reason you care is because of the money, and that is not the truth. That's a part of the reality, absolutely, but that's not the primary reason why I get up in the morning and come to support a district of over 7,500 students.
If I could clarify, and when I said education, I was not speaking to like SARB hearings. I meant like the overall community. Before a parent even has a child being absent, have we done that kind of outreach where, we just, like at a back to school night or something, like, let's talk about attendance for a minute, attendance is important, here's why. And besides the fact that your child will miss out on a lot, and I don't know that I think parents need to be educated on how much their student misses out on when they miss school, because it's a lot. Like you said, those conversations that they have with their peers, the bonding that takes place, they show up the next day, they've missed out and they're kind of in the dark. So attendance it matters, and educate them on that, but then also throw in, and hey, by the way, also if your child is absent, not only do they miss all of this, But then they potentially are going to miss out on opportunities because this is how much we lose per day. And this is what our absence rate is right now. And then, I think our community would be responsive. I don't know what the rest of the board thinks.
As far as that goes, I've heard from a lot of parents, all you care about is the money. And that is absolutely the farthest thing from the truth for me. My biggest concern, main concern, the reason I do what I do here is the highest quality education we can give our students. But the reality is money is how you get that high quality education to the students. And the more we have, the better education we can give those students. And the less we have, the more things we have to cut out because we don't have money to do those things.
I don't think anyone would disagree with that. I just think if your child is sick, your child is going to be sick and not be able to go to school. They're going to miss school regardless. And then we're adding an extra kind of layer of stress to that by saying after 5 times. And I have 5 children, and there hasn't been many school years where at least one of my children hasn't been sick more than 5 days throughout the school year. So I think that, I don't think I'm the only one, because as Trustee Boulay said, a lot of stakeholders have reached out to me about this part of the policy. And I feel their pain because it's impacted me personally, and I do care about being fiscally sound. But there's got to be, like Trustee Boulay said, I feel like there's got to be some reasonableness here and a little bit of a compromise. I think it's too stringent.
So what's on the table by board request is the BPAR 5113. We have the current policy and a staff recommendation. It is the board's responsibility to give direction. If you want to keep it, great. If you want to change it, great. Staff follows the direction of the board. This is a policy discussion. You have a working opportunity here to go over this. The other thing I'm going to say is, because there's only 4 of you, at least 3 of you have to agree, because a 2-2 would be we'd bring it back at the next meeting. That doesn't mean you're saying no or anybody doesn't support all this stuff. So I think the schools do an effective job communicating the importance of being in school. I do. I think we could do something a little bit more of a campaign, a little more targeted. I don't disagree with that recommendation. This is a policy discussion upon board request. Here is the policy, the staff recommendation. We will follow the direction of the board.
Okay, I still have questions.
Oh, please, I'm sorry. I was just...
Yep. So for whatever reason, when you were talking and you were talking about, well, we can have conversations with the nurse, I guess I didn't visualize it, didn't think it through, but now I'm trying to think it through. And what I hear is that the nurse, like the student can be out in the car and the nurse can walk out and say, yep, they're sick. Yep. Can you give me a vignette of what that would look like? Like, do they take a thermometer and take their temperature? Like, what would a typical scenario look like when they walk out to the car?
Yes. So typically what has happened is families that are having to utilize that additional resource, they have already been in communication with our attendance clerk and our school nurse, and there's been a SART meeting of some kind. So what happens is there
SART meeting.
A SART meeting. It could be part of a contract. So that's a.
Oh, so this is not a situation where my child is sick. I don't want to take him to the doctor. I just want to let the nurse know. So I'm going to drive. This is like after a specific amount of time.
It could be both.
Okay.
Yes, but typically when families have met, this is typically for families that are on the path to being truant, is where these things start to happen. And so we as school sites and a school district are trying to provide early interventions. So there might have been maybe attendance letter 1 has gone home, attendance letter 2 has gone home, which means that there's been 6 unexcused absences. And so with that, there is a SART contract that's developed to make sure that we're addressing student concerns. Is there any other interventions or supports? Is the student complaining of a tummy ache because they're nervous to come to school? And those are some of the conversations that we might have. Is the student always having a tummy ache after school? Are they having a headache before 6th period? So those are some of the things that come out with that open line of communication between the school site and the parent or guardian. So let's say, for example, a family knows that they've utilized all of their 5 days of illness absence. The school sites have communicated on day 3, like, you've used 3 of your 5 parent illness absences. Just as a reminder, our BPAR indicates that parents may excuse up to 5 days of illness absences. And then it's going to be up to 4 days and then 5 days. And then there will be a communication. Your student has exhausted the 5 days of parent excusals. Please know that a doctor's note is required moving forward. A parent might say, I'm not able to get into the doctor, the copay is too much, I have this concern, I can't get them there, whatever the case might be. Then the school site is going to communicate, I understand. If you would like, we do have a school nurse here. The parent, I don't want to bring anyone else into the school office. I don't want to expose anyone. My student's ill. And the response to that would be, I know we completely understand. Why don't you go ahead, drive to the school. When you get here, please just call us back, and then we'll have the school nurse come out to your car and take your student's temperature, or look if there's any type of measurable or observable symptom.
Okay, so I was thinking about it differently. Like, I'm a parent. I know that I have 5 at my discretion. Beyond that, I need a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
My child has a fever of, what's a low-grade fever that would cause you to keep your child home?
99.
99. My child has a fever of 99. That's observable. I have a thermometer. It's 99.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to take them to the doctor this time, but I also don't want to count it counted against my 5. So I'm like, well, a Zoom call where I show the little digital thermometer, it's 99. That's kind of what I was envisioning was, and because granted, I'm a CFO, so I'm one of these guys that thinks down the road, and I'm like, well, I don't want to burn one of my 5 if it's observable, right? And by the same token, I don't, the idea of every parent that's calling in sick for their child goes through this process would also be this massive strain on school resources.
Yes.
So it's it's a circle.
It is.
I don't know.
So I'll move forward. In terms of the slide that's up there now, cleared within 48 hours, change that to 72. I think that's a great idea, because I think that will allow us to capture some more of those excused absences. Is that correct? To capture some of did I say that right?
It would be for families that forget to submit their doctor's note.
Okay. And then the 3 consecutive days required for a doctor's note, I think that's totally fine. If someone is out for 3 days because they're sick, I think it certainly warrants a trip to the doctor. And then when a student has 5 absences for illness, further absences verified by a physician, I would like to see that increased. And I am willing to have a discussion about to what number we would like to see that increase.
I'm 100% on board with what you just said. I agree with everything you just said. That's where I'd like to take the discussion.
So 5.1.
We don't get credit for partial days.
I have a quick question. I've seen commonly among high school students that they're absent due to mental health reasons, and they're not ill, but does that count under the 5 excused illness absences, or is that different?
That would potentially be under the 5 illness absences if called in by a parent, unless a student is, 18 and they're able to clear some of their own absences. However, if there's like a chronic condition where we have a doctor's note on file indicating that there would be absences related to mental health or they're getting treatment, then that would be counted as a medical absence and not counted as one of those 5.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to hear a recommendation from one of my fellow board members as to what they think a good number other than 5 would be for days.
I'm thinking somewhere between 8 and 10.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking 10 when I got here, but any compromise is better than no compromise. So if it has to be 8, that's better than 5. But I initially like the 10 days myself. But I can live with 8.
So
Since this isn't an action item, you're looking for consensus, correct?
So yes, so what we would do with the consensus is we would change the number here on number 3 and bring it back as a second read, and you guys would make it affirmative.
So if one of you wants to ask for consensus for 8 or 10 or whatever you want to ask for, we can go from there.
And then if we do change this number, I presume it would go into effect at the next academic year, or is that up for? Because what I'd like to see is how our change.
I don't know that. I'd have
how
to
our
think
change
about that.
Impacted attendance. Because I'm totally up for if we change it to 10 and it's really having a negative impact on our attendance, then I would like to have the opportunity to look
You
at
know
it.
the answer?
absolutely can.
I have an answer, but I don't know a technical answer. Do you have a technical answer?
I do not have a technical
Okay,
answer.
so what we could do, if it's legal, and we'll have to double check this, is start the policy with a communication on the, I don't know, on April 15th. I'm making that up, right? And then we can monitor a couple things. We could monitor Monday and Fridays, see if it gets worse. We know if it gets worse, we're losing money. Most importantly, we're putting at risk all the great outcomes we get with our kids. And we can anticipate if it gets worse, the achievement gap kids will get worse because typically they would fall into a category of missing more school. Now, if there's no difference, then we can say we made a good policy, the board made a good policy decision and we executed it well.
Okay, I am going to propose then that we change the 5 days to 10 days because Dublin, who has a 12.2% chronic absenteeism, very close to our 12.1%, they have in their policy 14 illnesses. So if we, and I think that we have lots of similarities to Dublin, so I propose we change to 10, and monitor.
I'm okay with that.
I am too, but Dr. Nicholas, I would actually. Do you have contact info? No, I'll look him up online. I would like to talk to a board member from Dublin for anecdotal, like how does this work for you guys? Like how, just to get some, But I'll support the 10. But if there's something special, be it community outreach or whatever it is, that's helping them be successful, I would like to know about it.
I think we have consensus to change it to 10. I have one more question that is kind of related, but not exactly. Earlier in the slides, there was mention that this didn't apply to COVID.
Correct. So a parent can excuse 5 days for illness, and then if a student came down with COVID and we had a positive test result, then that would be another 5 days. So technically 10 days, a parent excusal or maybe a bonus 5 medical, however you want to say it, but it would be classified as a COVID attendance absence code that's separate from illness and separate from medical.
So what if this is another scenario. What if a parent kept a child home because they had COVID-like symptoms, but never tested positive?
It would go as an illness absence.
Okay, okay, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you. And thank you also for the presentation. It was very comprehensive, very, very informative, and I appreciate all the work you did to put this together.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, definitely, and it's definitely vignette worthy.
And thank you to my fellow board members for conceding.
I don't know that we conceded
Yeah,
anything.
Consent for approving the consensus.
For consensus.
For consensus, yeah, that.
You're very welcome. On to item C, first reading of updated board policies and administrative regulations. Board report?
This is
Staff
the,
report?
the last tranche that was dropped. This is included in that tranche, but it has been pulled out for this particular discussion. We would probably, for simplicity's sake, bring back just a second reading, and then you guys can vote on the changes that we made. I don't think we need to pull it out as a separate item unless the board wants it as a separate item.
Whatever works.
I did want to say thank you to staff for resuming the policy update procedure, so.
I would like to thank staff and the policy committee for all the work in bringing us the updated policies. Item D, first read of the 2023-2024 Lammersville Unified School District Wellness Plan. Staff report?
Yeah, having a wellness committee and 2 board members that sit on it and community members and first responders, I think that's unique to our district. Not everybody, I'm sure everybody has something, but I think it's a great program. Thank you to Mr. Harrison, and who else sits on wellness? Irene, obviously, Executive Director Busatil, and we recommend the first read approval to move on, and then same with the safety plan.
All right, moving on to item E, first read of the 2023-2024 Lammersville Unified School District Safe Schools Plan and school site safety plans. Do you have any further?
I just have one little unique thing that happened. Ben had an interesting, Principal Faubert had an interesting communication that came from a grand jury and sent it over to us as the appropriate action because none of us knew what to do, and we all kind of scurried around and about. And in the end, you basically are asked to participate and or dance to a grand jury recommendation. But they came out and they wanted to see facility and they wanted to see copies of our school plan. The reason why I bring it up here is they're studying good and bad practices as a grand jury, not a legal, it doesn't seem like, it looks like they're looking into good practices. And I felt very confident because of the safety committee that we had a really highfalutin opportunity for them to see who's got it going on. So I will say that, though Ben and Thor and Kirk's heart rates went up for a little bit.
So did mine.
Yeah. Well, because you hear grand jury, but then you look into it, and they basically said, well, if you don't cooperate, they're going to say that you're kind of a jerk and you don't cooperate. So we cooperated, but we felt proud that we knew we did our due diligence.
Yeah, grand juries kind of make school boards nervous, I think.
Yeah.
I would just like to thank all the sites for their safety plans, as well as the safety committee for working on the district safe schools plan. I know it's a lot of work. I've sat on that committee for a while and know how much goes into it. Thank you all. Moving on to item 9, calendar. Wednesday, March 22nd is the safety committee meeting at 3:45 here in the boardroom. Monday through Friday, April 3rd through 7th, 2023 is spring break. District facilities will be closed. Wednesday, April 19th is the next wellness committee meeting at 3:45 in the Professional Development Center. Wednesday, April 19th is the next regular board meeting, 7 o'clock here in the boardroom. And Thursday, April 20th is the joint District English Learner Advisory Committee and Education Committee meeting at 6:30 in the Professional Development Center. In a moment, we will be adjourning to closed session where we will discuss Public Employee Discipline Dismissal Release Complaint, Government Code 54957, Conference with Real Property Negotiators, Government Code 54956.8, and Conference with Legal Counsel, Anticipated Litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9. And I will entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn to closed session.
Second.
On a motion by Trustee Boulay and seconded by Trustee Clements, student trustee preferential vote.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are now adjourned. Thank you all for coming and have a wonderful evening.